Record here.
And we're live.
Cool. Hey everybody, CJ and Renika, or CJ's here. Renika's not here. I'm so used to saying that. It's funny. But Renika's not here. So thanks for joining us. We're here with Molly, and we're gonna record our podcast here. So I'm about to go ahead here. All right, you ready, Molly?
Yes.
All right, CJ, ready?
Ready as I'm gonna be.
Cool.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, everybody. This is Jordan with the Crohn's Veteran Podcast. I am joined by my co-host, CJ Cabrera. How you doing, man?
Doing good. And yourself?
Doing very well, thank you. We are very pleased and very honored and very grateful to have a special guest, Molly Dunham. Is that correct? Is that awesome? She has ulcerative colitis. She's an IBS warrior. She's an advocate. I've been actually following her for a very long time on Instagram, and her content's amazing, all that stuff. So I'm actually really excited about this interview and talking to you and stuff. And so first things first, tell me a little about you, Molly. There's the colitis stuff, there's everything else, but I'm curious about you. Where you're from, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So my name is Molly Dunham, and I'm the face behind Better Bellies by Molly. I was actually born and raised in a small town in Vermont. For anyone that doesn't know, that's a state, Canada, next to New York, and New Hampshire, Massachusetts, up in New England, small town. I lived in Vermont my whole life until I graduated college. I actually went to undergrad in Vermont at the University of Vermont, and then about a week after I graduated, I joined the Teach for America program, which brought me to Atlanta, and I've been here ever since. So
cool.
Got in my car, packed it full, and moved here. I didn't know anyone. I'd never been here before. It was kind of a crazy experience. Still kind of processing it 10 years later. And so I've been here ever since. Just kind of like started from the bottom. Now we're here, if you know what I'm saying. I'm here by myself. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a job. I mean, I kind of did with Teach for America, but then when that I didn't have a job. It's just been like picking myself up from my bootstraps, if you will. And soon after I moved to Atlanta, it came my Ibd diagnosis, which followed by my IBS diagnosis. And then, things kind of like formulated from there. And then I lived silently with my diagnosis for about 5 or 6 years. And then I went public with creating my blog in 2018. And I'm so glad that I did.
What made you want to come public or go public?
Sure. So, that's a great question. I really just was ready to like not live alone with this illness anymore. Like I was ready to be like, hey, this isn't going anywhere. I have this problem. I don't need to be ashamed for it. Why am I so ashamed about it? If I can help other people, it will feel like having this disease has more of a purpose. And for me, I needed that purpose. I wanted to help other people. I had already been on my IBD journey for 5 years. So I did have 5 years experience than someone being diagnosed in the moment. So I just felt like sharing my story could potentially help others. And I thought that was worth, the embarrassment or whatever judgment people might have of me. So I mainly did it to help others.
and I mean, cool. Well, thank you for sharing. Have you really experienced people giving you a hard time, on the internet? Just to be honest, I've been fortunate with Crohn's veterans so far. There's been like random, like almost like bot type weird stuff, but in general, like haters or like, I don't know. So I'm curious, if you've experienced that, in the advocacy space, and what have you done to mitigate that, or what are you doing to try to maintain your mental health and all that?
Oh, sure. So for the most part, I've been very lucky. I feel like with sharing my story and not getting too much spam, I definitely get a certain amount, but some of it is so easy to detect at not being really maybe a true person. So that's pretty easy. I would say the hardest part is when people try to tell you what you need to be doing or try to make you feel bad for like, hey, we shouldn't be eating that. okay, well, we aren't a thing. Like
Right,
I
right.
can eat what I want and you can eat what you want and I can support you and you can support me. So I do get like judgment, I would say, but in terms of like harassment or anything like that, I've been very fortunate, and I do think sharing your story and just kind of being ready for any backlash, but most of the time I feel like people are accepting if you are authentic and genuine.
Cool. Well, also, I mean, I'm actually curious, so you've had ulcerative colitis for how long now?
So 9 years. Next year.
9 years?
Mhm.
Wow, so can I expand a little bit on your diagnosis and how, and how you came to have UC?
Oh, sure. So about, I would say 9 months after moving to Atlanta, I started having like, the biggest thing was I was starting to have diarrhea.
Mm,
And then once I started having diarrhea, it was also accompanied with like cramping, bloating, tired, like extra fatigue, like literally work, sleep, work, sleep. If I could work, right? And then
right.
the biggest thing, like the hallmark thing when I knew something was truly wrong was when I started like bleeding, like having bloody bowel movements, actually just bleeding when I was going to the bathroom versus like having blood in my stool. I was just like bleeding. And I knew automatically that like something was seriously wrong,
Right.
especially because I mean, I knew that that's not normal. I knew that that meant something was going on. I felt that was going on, and I'm very in tune with my body. So I was like, something is seriously wrong. Like I'm bleeding rectally. That's not okay. I'm sick. Was always hurrying to the bathroom. The urgency was insane. And so that's when I kind of knew that I needed to seek care. And I went to primary care, and I knew I needed to have like a GI see me. And so I was sent to a GI pretty quickly. And I was definitely in tears my first office visit because the doctor just didn't have a lot of bedside manner. And she like stuck her fingers up my butt and then told me I needed a colonoscopy, left me with a video, and left the room. And I was just in tears. I didn't know anyone. I had no one to drive me. I had no one to call and be like, hey, I'm having this like health
Life
crisis.
change. Yeah, right, right.
And I mean, my family is amazing, but they lived in Vermont. And so they couldn't pick me up. And so
Mm-hmm.
very traumatizing being very alone.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I created Better Bellies by Molly, was because of being so alone in it and knowing that other people are probably going at this alone, and making sure that no one has to do it alone ever again, hopefully, is my goal. And so once I got the colonoscopy, well, I actually went home, traveled home to Vermont to have it. And once I had the colonoscopy, I mean, I got my ulcerative colitis diagnosis. They did the biopsies as standard of care. And I had left-sided colitis that was actually mostly in like my sigmoid. Over the years, it has increased up the left side of my colon. But I've been pretty fortunate with being able to respond to most of my medications, with the exception of like bad flare-ups where I've definitely had to use like steroids and other drugs. I definitely have to use a lot of rectal medication, which is something I'm trying to like normalize and talk about more on Better Bellies by Molly, because when I was first told I needed to do enemas because the pills weren't working, I said no. I was like, no, I can't stick at anything up my butt. Like it was already
Right,
enough.
right,
The doctor,
right.
is up my butt. And so
Mm,
yeah, I
mm,
finally, it came down to I just have to do this. And so
right.
that's why I talk about it now, because now I've been doing it for 9 years, and so I'm kind of a veteran at that and want to make it
Well, this
more
is
for
well, this
others.
is well, this is super valuable. I mean, because I'm sure there's folks out there that are going to be listening to this that that are going to feel more comfortable, talking to their doctors, talking to their families, getting help. So so we again appreciate you being here.
Oh yeah.
After
Thank you.
moving to Atlanta, have you experienced any like difficulty with your doctors or care team?
So I didn't get sick until I moved to Atlanta, so I was starting fresh. I have had to see a lot of different doctors because several of them I just like didn't find helpful. None of them were talking about getting me to remission. They were just, oh, you're just gonna have good days and bad days, and that's just the nature of your disease, and kind of brushed me off. So I definitely had to doctor shop quite a bit, and I went to several different providers until I actually ended up finding a physician assistant who has been like my most the most amazing provider that I've ever had. And when she was on maternity leave, I did like explore some other providers because I just needed some additional support. But yeah, so I finally have someone that I trust and I have a great relationship with. The great thing about Atlanta is that there's a lot of health systems and there's a lot of doctors. And so there's not always like someone like a perfect fit for everybody. There are people that do end up traveling to like Mayo Clinic or Cleveland Clinic or things like that, but there are at least several options, several health systems. So when you run out, if you go through 5 or 6 doctors, there's hundreds more.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so I'm for that.
Also, how'd you go from having UC into your IBS diagnosis?
Sure. So basically, after I'd had ulcerative colitis for about a year or so, and my symptoms, like my gas, my bloating, the occasional diarrhea, just like wasn't really letting up, even though my disease was looking mild. Granted, my disease was not in remission, but it was looking mild, and my provider thought it was looking so good it probably wasn't causing my symptoms, and the bleeding had subsided, but the GI symptoms were persisting. And that's when they kind of just out of process of elimination were like, I think you have IBS in addition to your ulcerative colitis. So it was kind of like hey, I think you have this as well. Type of it actually wasn't until about 5 years later, 2018, when I found out that SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, existed. And then I finally got a test for SIBO, and I had hydrogen dominant SIBO, which aligned perfectly with my symptoms. And I've been through 4 rounds of treatment for that. And there's a good chance I will continue to have to be treating myself for that because it just reoccurs and it's pretty pesky.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Awesome. So what are your kind of what's your day-to-day kind of like looking like now?
My day-to-day?
Yeah, as far as your health is concerned, like how do you? I mean, do you usually feel pretty good, or is it kind of like every day's still a struggle here?
So I finally reached remission in 2020. So yeah, it took about like 8 years to reach like a remission. So knock on wood, I get really superstitious when I talk about it.
Definitely.
Because I'm like, oh my God, if I tell it, like if I say I'm in remission, like then tomorrow I won't be. Yes. So thankfully, right before I did have a colonoscopy right before the pandemic hit. And so that's when I first found out that like my colon was looking pretty good. I do still have IBS symptoms. I do still have like GI symptoms here and there. I've been doing a lot better. I do still experience quite a bit of fatigue. I do have a lot of like stress and anxiety that I deal with. Some of it's related, some of it's not. So I would say day to day right now, I feel very fortunate. I have been feeling fairly well, and I have been functioning pretty well recently. But as you know, like it can vary quite a bit day to day and week to week, and definitely trying so hard to reduce my stress because it definitely makes me flare.
Right.
Good.
Yes, it does. I was just listening to you talk, and I had my second surgery when I was in Nebraska, and I had no family around me at all, and so I can definitely relate to that. And then it is terrifying. It is terrifying. I had the person I was with at the time, but mom, dad, brother, sister, all those kind of people were not around, and then so it's very interesting. But your page and Crohn's veteran and stuff like. The kind of the genesis of that is a little bit similar, that because I felt alone in the world, and then I created my page, and then I met CJ and all these other great people and stuff, and so I mean the IBD is an isolating illness, and so it's really important, I think, as part of that healing journey for people to reach out if they can.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad because especially when you're stuck on the toilet, the one thing you can do is get on Instagram and connect with people who are also stuck on the toilet. And without that, it's very hard to get that contact. It's very hard to talk to other people to be like, hey, you've done these enemas. What did you do? Oh, I have this question, but it's too much. It's too much information. Can I ask? And I'm like, there's no such thing as too much information when you're talking to another IBD warrior. And that's one of the amazing things about this community.
Yep. I agree. Like it's just kind of like a really unique bond. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Like I don't have to know you. I've never met. Like, I don't have to meet you. I don't have to know your life story. I've talked to people all over the world, some who don't even speak a lot of English, and I'm like trying to understand your question. Let's try to work this out.
Right.
Help too.
Right. I mean, that's awesome. So it's so great, to hear that, the things you're doing. Like if people want to, reach out to you and connect with you and, just, support you in what you're doing, like how can they do that?
Oh, absolutely. So my blog is www.betterbelliesbymolly.com, or you could just Google Better Bellies by Molly. My Instagram is @Better Bellies by Molly. Facebook is the same thing, facebook.com/ Better Bellies by Molly. So everything is Better Bellies by Molly. So message me, follow me. Like I would love to connect. Happy to be here for anyone.
Cool. And also like any words of wisdom, that like because you're an advocate, so you're talking to people all over the world. You have all these cool experiences and stuff, and so this so for the folks that are listening that maybe just got diagnosed, any kind of words from the trenches.
Sure. So if you're newly diagnosed, or even if you're not and you aren't already connected with other people, whether it's through a support group, whether it's through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, or whether it's through Instagram, Facebook, social media, whatever it is, just get connected, meet and talk to other people who are experiencing this. You are not alone. It feels like you are. And at times I still feel alone maybe, but you aren't. Like we are all in this together, and we will be better off if we all just band together, support one another. And it's a really great community. I also encourage anyone that is willing to and wants to share their story to share it, because you don't know what your story can do and who it can impact, and your roadmap, like your story can be a roadmap to somebody else without you even knowing it. And that's really powerful, and it may help you just cope with this disease. I also highly recommend therapy. I highly recommend taking care of your mental and physical health, and just reaching out to people, connect, and just take care of yourself the best that you can.
She speaks the truth. So, and also just a little small add-on just from me, try to laugh every day, try to do something that keeps you, light and up, because, when you have these, stomach aches and these, all this bloating and all these horrible, terrible symptoms and stuff, it can be like, man, the world sucks. And so this maybe like watch a stand-up comedian, watch a movie, like, this something that keeps it light, and just laugh every day. It's good for the soul.
All else fails, make a joke about it. That's typically
right. Exactly. Cool. Well, CJ, do you want to take us out of here, ma'am?
All right, gents. If you want to check out the podcast, we are on all podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, etc. Also, you can check out our website at www.crohnsveteran.com. And if you guys want to work with us, or sponsorships or anything, you can hit up Jordan at his email at jordanmcconnell@crohnsveteran.com, and you can hit me up at cjcabrera@colitisveteran.com.
Awesome, and cool. And then also, CJ and I are building our new merch store. So that's going to be out for Crohn's and colitis stuff. So so please support our brand. Support our podcast. Again, we're on all the platforms. We're our YouTube channel, all that stuff. And so we appreciate the love. We appreciate the support. Subscribe, and Molly, we greatly appreciate you being here today. Any final thoughts?
Thank you so much for having me and letting me share my story. I really appreciate it. I love following both of you, and I can't wait to continue to collaborate and build up this community together. So thanks again, and I look forward to continuing this work together.
Cool beans. Well, again, All right, thanks, Molly. Thanks, DJ, and again, thanks for supporting Crohn's Better.